I still wake up in a cold sweat sometimes, even after all this time. The image of his face, the sheer audacity, replaying in my mind. You know, you think you know someone, especially the person you've built a life with, the man you married, the father of your children. But what if that person is living an entire separate life that you know nothing about? What if he has another family, another wife, other kids, all hidden away? A meticulously constructed lie while you're pouring your heart and soul into a shared future. And then when that lie shatters, what do? Do you crumble? Do you seek revenge? Or do you make him pay for everything in the most literal sense possible? Tell me honestly, what would you have done if you discovered your husband had a secret family? Because what I did, well, it was certainly something. It all started so innocently, as these things always do, don't they? I met Mark at a friend's barbecue back in our early 20s. He was charming, witty, and had a smile that could disarm anyone. We hit it off instantly, talking for hours, completely oblivious to the bustling party around us. I remember feeling a warmth, a connection I hadn't experienced before. He was everything I thought I wanted: ambitious, kind, and incredibly attentive. Our courtship was a whirlwind of romantic dates, shared dreams, and a deep sense of understanding. We fell in love quickly, the kind of head-over-heels, all-consuming love that feels like it's pulled straight from a movie. Within 2 years, we were married in a beautiful ceremony surrounded by our closest family and friends. I genuinely believed I had found my soulmate, my happily ever after. We bought a cozy little house in the suburbs, spent weekends renovating it, painting walls, choosing furniture, building our nest. 2 years after that, our first child, Lily, arrived, bringing an unimaginable amount of joy and a new dimension to our lives. Then came our son, Ben, a few years later, completing our picture-perfect family. Mark was, by all appearances, a devoted husband and father. He'd play with the kids for hours, read them bedtime stories, help with homework, and always made sure we had family dinners together. He worked hard as a sales executive for a tech company, often traveling for business, which I understood was part of his job. He'd always call, text, send flowers from different cities. He seemed to genuinely miss us when he was away, sending pictures of hotel rooms and airport lounges, sometimes even little trinkets for the kids. Our life was good, stable, perhaps even a little boring at times, but in the best possible way. We had our routines, our inside jokes, our shared history. We were a unit, or so I thought. The first crack in my perfect facade appeared subtly, almost imperceptibly, like a tiny hairline fracture in a crystal vase. It was a seemingly innocuous detail. Mark had always been meticulous with his finances, a trait I admired. He handled most of our investments, paid the bills, and kept everything organized. One evening, I was looking for a specific document, an old insurance policy, in his home office. He was away on a supposed business trip to Seattle. I opened his filing cabinet, which he usually kept locked, and saw a folder labeled, "Personal Do Not Touch." Curiosity, that dangerous little imp, got the better of me. It wasn't like him to have something so explicitly marked. I opened it. Inside, nestled among what I expected to be tax documents or private correspondence, was a small, crudely drawn picture. It was a crayon drawing of a family, a man who looked remarkably like Mark, a woman with long dark hair and 2 children, a boy and a girl, slightly younger than Lily and Ben. Underneath, in childlike handwriting, it said, "My family." My breath hitched. It was probably just some drawing a client's kid had given him, I reasoned, trying to calm the sudden tremor in my hands. But why was it in a locked Do Not Touch folder? And why did the man look so much like Mark? I tried to shake off the unease, telling myself I was overreacting. Yet the image gnawed at me. I carefully put it back, locking the cabinet, my heart a frantic drum against my ribs. Over the next few weeks, a heightened sense of awareness settled over me. I started noticing things I'd previously dismissed. Mark's phone was always face down, always on silent. He'd often step out of the room to take calls, mumbling about work stuff. Sometimes, when he was traveling, I'd notice a slight geographical inconsistency in his stories. A street name he mispronounced, a landmark he described that wasn't quite right. Again, I dismissed it as him being tired or me being overly suspicious, but the seed of doubt had been planted and it began to sprout. The real unraveling began with a credit card statement. I usually didn't look at them in detail, trusting Mark implicitly. But one month, a large recurring charge from a grocery store several towns away caught my eye. It wasn't our usual grocery store, nor was it near his office or any of his known business trip locations. It was a store in a town I barely knew, a good 2-hour drive from our home, And it wasn't just a one-off charge. It was a consistent weekly purchase, often for significant amounts. This was too specific, too regular to be a simple mistake. My stomach dropped. I decided I had to investigate. I waited until Mark left for one of his business trips, claiming he was flying to Chicago. Instead of staying home, I drove. I drove for 2 hours, my heart pounding with a mixture of dread and a desperate hope that I was wrong. I found the grocery store, and then, using the date and time of one of the charges, I went inside and spoke to the manager, explaining I believed there was a fraudulent charge on my husband's card. She was surprisingly helpful. She pulled up security footage from that day, and there he was, my husband Mark. But he wasn't alone. He was with the woman from the crayon drawing, and the 2 children. They were laughing, pushing a loaded shopping cart, looking like the happiest, most normal family in the world. My world, however, completely shattered in that moment. It wasn't just a drawing. It was real. He had another family. My legs felt like jelly, and I had to lean against a shelf of cereal boxes to keep myself from collapsing. The manager, seeing my distress, offered me a glass of water, clearly sensing this was more than just a fraudulent charge. I mumbled my thanks and stumbled out of the store. The image burned into my mind. I drove around that town in a daze, numb with shock, a searing pain gripping my chest. I saw a school playground and something compelled me to stop. And there, etched onto a wooden fence post, was another drawing, very similar to the one in Mark's office. This one was slightly more detailed, signed with a child's name, Sophia, and below it another name, Ethan, his secret children. My children's half-siblings. The betrayal was so immense, so profound, it stole my breath. I felt like I was drowning, suffocating in a sea of his lies. How could he? How could he do this to us? To me, to Lily and Ben? My mind raced, trying to piece together the timeline, the logistics of his deception. His business trips to different cities now made agonizing sense. They weren't business trips at all. They were visits to his other life, his other family. He had perfected the art of deception, living a double life for years right under my nose. All the times he said he was working late, all the times he was stuck in traffic, all the supposed conferences, they were all covers for his secret life. The anger started to simmer, a slow, burning rage beneath the crushing grief. I returned home, the 2-hour drive feeling like an eternity, but I didn't confront him immediately. I needed time. I needed a plan. I needed to understand the full extent of his betrayal, and then I needed to make him pay. And that, my friends, is where my story truly begins to take a turn. So that's the situation I was in, completely blindsided, utterly devastated. And I had to make a choice. Before I tell you what happened next, what I decided to do, I want you to pause right now and comment below what you would have done in my shoes. Would you have confronted him immediately? Would you have packed your bags and left? Would you have sought legal counsel? Tell me what your first instinct would have been. I spent the next few days in a state of controlled fury, moving through life like a robot. I continued my routines, dropped the kids off at school, cooked dinner, smiled at Mark when he returned from his trip, all while meticulously gathering evidence. I went through his phone while he was sleeping, finding text messages filled with affectionate terms to a contact saved as Work Contact X, but clearly to another woman. I found pictures of his other kids smiling brightly. I checked our joint bank accounts and discovered regular, significant transfers to an unknown account. He wasn't just visiting. He was financially supporting this entire other family with our money. Money that was meant for our children, our future. The sheer audacity, the brazenness of his deception made my blood boil. He had been using our shared resources, my trust, my love, to build a parallel life. He had been stealing from us for years. I consulted with a lawyer, a sharp, no-nonsense woman named Sarah who specialized in divorce and family law. I laid out everything, showing her the crayon drawings, the credit card statements, the text messages, the photos. She listened patiently, her expression a mix of sympathy and professional determination. "This is big, Catherine," she said, "and it's clear grounds for a very favorable outcome for you. We'll go for full custody, maximum child support, and a significant portion of the marital assets. He's committed fraud and emotional distress on a massive scale. But I wanted more than just a favorable outcome. I wanted justice. I wanted him to pay for every single lie, every stolen moment, every ounce of pain he had inflicted. I wanted to hit him where it hurt the most: his finances, his reputation, and his carefully constructed image. My plan began to form, a cold, calculated strategy. I didn't want a messy public confrontation yet. I wanted to hit him when he least expected it, and I wanted it to be legally devastating for him. Sarah helped me draft a comprehensive separation agreement that included not only the standard divorce clauses but also specific demands related to the financial support he had been providing to his other family using our marital funds. We documented every single charge, every bank transfer, every business trip that was actually a rendezvous with his other life. We also looked into the company he worked for, a reputable tech firm that prided itself on employee integrity. This was key. I knew Mark was a high earner, and his career was everything to him. Losing that would be a significant blow. The day of the confrontation arrived. I chose a Sunday morning, after he'd just finished making breakfast for Lily and Ben, and the kids were happily watching cartoons. I sat him down at the kitchen table, a stack of meticulously organized documents in front of me: the grocery store receipts, bank statements, printouts of his texts, and the 2 crayon drawings prominently displayed. His smile faltered as he saw the stack. "What's all this, honey?" he asked, a nervous tremor in his voice. I looked him dead in the eye, my voice steady, devoid of emotion. "It's all the evidence of your other life, Mark. Your other wife. Your other children." His face drained of color, going from pale to an ashen gray. He stammered, tried to deny, to explain, to offer some convoluted story about a distant relative. But I cut him off, my voice rising slightly. "Don't you dare lie to me again. Mark, I've been to the grocery store, I've seen the security footage, I've seen the drawings, I've seen the bank transfers. I know everything." The bravado evaporated. He slumped in his chair, his shoulders shaking. He finally admitted it, tearfully confessing to having an affair that spiraled into a second marriage and 2 more children, all starting 7 years ago. 7 years. 7 years of lies, of living a double life, all while pretending to be the perfect husband and father to me and our kids. The sheer scale of his betrayal made me feel physically ill. "And who is she?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. He told me her name, Sarah, and that she had no idea about me or our family. He had convinced her he was a divorced single father who traveled for work. The tangled web of his lies was breathtakingly complex and cruel. "So," I said, pushing the formal separation agreement across the table, "here's how this is going to go. You will sign this. It details a comprehensive financial settlement, including reimbursement for all funds you diverted to your other family, child support for Lily and Ben, and a significant portion of our marital assets to me. I'm also retaining full custody. If you fight this, Mark, if you even think about making this difficult, I will not only expose your double life to her and your other children, but I will also expose it to your company, complete with all the evidence I have. Your career, everything you've worked for, will be utterly destroyed. Do you understand?" His eyes were wide with terror. He knew I meant every word. He knew his entire world was crumbling. His career was his pride, his identity. The thought of losing it, of having his carefully crafted image of integrity shattered, was clearly more terrifying to him than losing me or even our children, I realized with a bitter pang. He signed the agreement, his hand shaking so violently he could barely hold the pen. The aftermath was swift and brutal. Sarah and I ensured every clause was enforced. The legal team handling his company's internal affairs was provided with anonymous tips and subtle hints about his unethical conduct, leading to an internal investigation. While I didn't directly expose his secret family to his company, the financial irregularities unearthed during the divorce proceedings, especially the misuse of company time and resources, his business trips, were enough to get him fired. He lost everything: his high-paying job, his reputation, and a significant portion of his wealth to me in the settlement. He was left with barely enough to support himself, let alone 2 families. His other wife, Sarah, eventually found out not from me directly, but from the ripple effects of his downfall. She too filed for divorce, her trust shattered, leaving him truly alone and financially crippled. Lily and Ben eventually learned about their half-siblings, a conversation that was incredibly difficult, but I explained it to them as gently as I could, focusing on the fact that their father had made terrible choices that had nothing to do with them. We moved into a new, smaller house, but it was ours, free from his lies, and I rebuilt our lives from the ground up, stronger and more resilient. Looking back, The pain was immense, the betrayal almost unbearable, but out of that devastation, I found a strength I never knew I possessed. I protected my children, I secured our future, and I made sure he faced the consequences of his actions. He paid, not just financially, but with the loss of everything he valued. It wasn't revenge in the traditional sense, but it was justice, a hard-won victory. My life now is peaceful, stable, and honest. We're rebuilding slowly but surely, learning to trust again, and most importantly, healing. This experience taught me a profound lesson about trust, about appearances, and about the deep wounds that deception can inflict. But it also taught me that even in the darkest moments, you can find the strength to fight for yourself and your loved ones. Like this video if you were on my side and you think I did the right thing. Subscribe for more stories of betrayal, resilience, and reclaiming your power. And please, share your final thoughts on this whole messy situation in the comment section below. I'll see you all in the next story.